Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. It is week 2 of 9.1.5 PTR. We have a new build today, and unfortunately there's not a tremendous amount to discuss from the Warlock end of the spectrum. There were a handful of brief class changes today, very minor tuning. Blood Decay's got a consumption buff. Warriors got a couple, I think a buff, something maybe. A decent bit of like AoE capping, and certain abilities that weren't mentioned that were going to be, I guess, uncapped, but put into the 5+ target DR territory were put there. Warlocks didn't get any, which is actually a good thing. Cedar Corruption is still soft capped at 20. Everything else is basically the same. But there were a few things worth mentioning. One, which we'll show first here, is actually a change to Demonic Gateway. Number 2 is the one Warlock change today was actually they reduced the cooldown of Nether Portal by 30 seconds, which is really awkward. We'll get to that. We'll talk about why it might just even be worse than it was before. And the third one is actually, spoiler sort of ahead here, the 9.15, the Mage Tower could potentially be returning in 9.15 with reskinned tier 20 transmog for every class. And if you don't know what tier 20 is, for Warlocks, tier 20 is the tier 6 reskin, the wings, which is actually insane. It looks really good. We'll take a brief look at that. So with that being said, let's start off with the actual gateway changes. Now, in this tier, there's a handful of fights: Soul Render Dormazane, Sylvanas, which has multiple fixate gateway focus macro requirements and things. Soul Render, Sylvanas, and there's one more, Painsmith, which a lot of guilds use. Gateway focus macros that interact with mouse overs. It's been really annoying. It's been a thing for a while now. You've seen it in previous tiers, like on Kill Jaden, for example, with certain classes that couldn't handle the knockback from the boss effect. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's basically a macro. What you do, I can try and pull it up here briefly, although it won't really be needed in, I guess, you know, a few weeks, hopefully, give or take. Show tooltip, Demonic Gateway, and slash focus at mouse over. So basically what you do here, you had this macro. I have it bound to my control 6 bind here. I would drop my gateway, or any Warlock in the raid would drop their gateway, and essentially you just hover over that part of the gate and you would, well, you know, hit your actual macro, which, bam, there you go. It puts a focus frame, which is right here. Usually it's on the other side of my screen over here above this, but it's PTR. And if you have another keybind, which is actually 8 for me, which is right here, if you have another keybind bound to interact with mouse over, you're essentially able to walk near it, be targeting something else, fighting it, whatever, put your mouse over the actual gateway, hit the interact with keybind button, and you take the gate. And this gets around, number 1, a cluttered gateway, people standing on it, so you can't hit it all the time. Number 2, every single person has been there where you're standing by the gate, you can see both sides of it, you're spamming the gate, and it's just not going off. You don't have debuff, everyone's been there. This gets around that. However, it's a nuisance. It's been a pain for a long time. Having to refocus gates multiple times in certain fights, like Sylvanas, for example, this tier, has led Blizzard to making a change, which is actually pretty interesting and something that nobody really asked for. It's an item. It looks like a toy, sort of, but it's not. It's 100 gold from the vendor, which is, I believe, somewhere down here in the Hall of Curiosities. Gateway Control Shard. The use: activate the nearest demonic gateway on a 1-second cooldown. It's not consumed on use. You don't have to buy a million of them. It's basically something, I guess, similar to like an old enchanter's rod, something you keep in your bags, which is sort of like just a utility item, I suppose. It's really convenient. So I have it bound to my bars here at F5. Now, I actually have debuff here, so you'll notice that if I move near, like closer or farther from the gateway, it stays desaturated or like faded here, right? It's not as vibrant as, you know, the 6-7 binds, all of that. When the debuff drops in about 20-ish seconds, if I'm standing near the gateway within range of the gate, you'll see the F5, which is, you know, this keybind here, actually become, you know, well, this color. It'll resaturate, I suppose, in about 10 seconds here. And the really cool thing is there's a handful of weak wars to track this. It'll glow. It'll be fully colored if you're actually close to the gateway enough to use it. It'll come off CD about now. There it is. Bang. It's back to the full color. If I move away, it desaturates. Move closer, it fills in again. So it gives you like a range indicator of, hey, I'm close enough to be able to take the gateway, which is also really cool in a really crowded area, like on Sylvanas in phase 2, or even in phase 1 at times. So instead of having this focus macro, we can basically just clear this. We can get rid of this. Don't focus anything at all. Just stand near the gateway. My mouse can be hovering over this player, for example. I can just hit my keybind. I'm near a gateway in general. Take the gate. It's actually a really awesome change. It'll be used in a wide array of Mythic Plus rating scenarios. It's basically going to be something that everybody is going to want at some point, whether you're a Warlock or somebody who, well, you know, just raids and has a Warlock in their actual raid. And the better thing, It also doesn't matter what side of the gateway you focus. You can focus this part, or you can be near this part or this part, and regardless, you're still going to take the gate. So huge quality of life increase, awesome change. Probably the thing I'm most excited about today, being honest. With that being said, let's get into the only real Warlock class change, the Nether portal cooldown reduction. So the Nether portal changes. The only change to Warlocks today was the fact that they reduced the cooldown from 3 minutes to 2.5 on Nether portal. Now, when I saw this initially, I was wondering what really would have led them to this decision, and I'm going to be honest, I still can't really figure out what. So baseline Nether portal was 3 minutes, obviously. Now baseline Tyrant is 1.5 minutes, which means that every other Tyrant lines up with your Nether portal perfectly. 1.5 minutes times 2 is 3. I live in Florida, but I can do basic math. So every other Tyrant will have your portal in it. First Tyrant, third Tyrant, fifth Tyrant, seventh Tyrant, etc. will have that portal sync. 2, 4, 6 won't. That's fine. But the issue now is that with it being 2.5 minutes, you don't have that sync really with any Tyrant, because if you're playing Wilfred's, your first Tyrant's around the 15-second mark. Then your second Tyrant's around like the 114, 120 mark, give or take, depending on lusts and, you know, haste, all that kind of stuff, right? 114 to 120, give or take. Now you're going to have your third Tyrant, I guess, technically around the 225, 230 mark, if you're just in combat, churning out imps and all that kind of stuff. Once again, it depends on haste and things like that. With Wilfred's power infusion. But the problem is, like, now you're playing Wilfred's, or I guess sort of like required to play Wilfred's to get Nether portal value with pet extensions, or you just don't play Wilfred's and hold the portal back to where it was at 3 minutes, right? Because, like, I'm pretty sure going back to beta, Wilfred's was best with demonic consumption, but Horn Nightmare and or Dog Legendary, I believe it was Horn Nightmare, was better with Nether portal, because you have a 1.5 minute Tyrant, so those extra hand procs are just more relevant outside of that, right? And I'm gonna be honest, Wilfred's with Nether portal, Wilfred's without decon is extremely suboptimal. Now, when you play Nether portal over demonic consumption, your damage, the way you deal damage is different, right? You're going to have all those extra pets in the portal extended by your Tyrant, and then extended longer past your Tyrant with Tyrant still active, so it buffs their damage a good bit. But your Tyrant value, like the damage you get, drops off so much. And like just testing earlier, my actual ooze, which I'm not even wearing now, my actual ooze dealt more damage than my Tyrant after two portal casts, like at like the 310, 320 mark. Now, if you're looking at portal rotationally, not a whole lot has really changed since we first started playing portal. It's very similar to the opener we have now. We'll end up precasting our bolt, playing Nia, precasting our bolt, going right into our soul rot, and then we'll go portal, 4 shards, Grimoire Felguard procking a demon, Vile Fiend procking another demon, and then we'll go dogs here to 0. Ruby, and then we go Shadowbolt, hand, Tyrant, and then we go right into another hand for last demon here, bang. Typically you do one more there, like in old Tyrant setups and stuff, but due to like lesser haste levels, you can't really squeeze that one in. Demonic Strength and follow your normal opener right here. Now, once again, the opener might vary a bit. You might actually not want to do that final hand bolt sequence there, because you can just go like double hand, like with 3 shards and then 2. But regardless, we're playing Wilfred's here. Like, here's my actual Tyrant tracker, here's Soul Rot, there's my Vile Fiend, and here's Nether portal. You'll notice that when CDs start to come back around, things are just pretty awkward. This second Tyrant, which is going to come up in probably about 30-ish seconds, give or take, with cooldown reductions, is a pretty weak one. I'll hold my Vile Fiend for it right here, just like we normally do, right? We're going to cast another hand, get the CDR down a bit. We'll dump some of these because we're going to have 2 more procs coming in. But we're going to have this Vile Fiend Tyrant here, right? About now, give or take, we can Soul Rot, get the Vile Fiend rolling, cast a hand, we have dog proc for a little bit, dump some of these, go dogs, and go into our hand bolt sequencing, right? But you don't have anywhere near the decon value with this Tyrant, anywhere near it, because you're playing Nether portal. The damage profile is just shifted a bit towards, you know, Nether portal demons, whatever, what have you. Cast your Shadow Bolt, your strength here. But the interesting thing comes up about now. So we're going to keep getting our CDR on our Tyrant due to Wilfred's. We're going to cast our dogs here, but if we notice, our Nether portal timer is just under 1 minute now, and our Vile Fiend's at 18. Now, Tyrant's not coming off cooldown fast enough to where we can just say, all right, we're going to hold this Vile Fiend. Basically, you can sort of cast your Vile Fiend almost on cooldown here and postpone your portal by, like, you know, 5-ish seconds, give or take, or just hold the actual Vile Fiend. Like, if I go, like, let's Vile Fiend now, for example, right? There it is. Look at our Tyrant. There's 40 seconds left in the cooldown. So, like, obviously we can't wait for that because that Tyrant's going with the portal, right? So it just puts you in this really awkward spot of, I guess we Vile Fiend, give or take, but this damage is just not very strong. it's just not very good in the first place. And now you've got this weird desync on our Soul Rod as well. We're going to Soul Rod here. It doesn't really matter technically if you're playing Nia, because we're not playing Decon. Just for simplicity's sake, we're doing the same thing here. If you're playing Dreamweaver though, you'll want to actually Soul Rod after your Tyrant, which for the haste amp and everything else that your pets actually get, which is really, really awkward. Now we have Portal in about 5 here, give or take, but our Vile Fiend's like 10 seconds off. So I'm going to delay a few seconds here, cast another hand, another bolt. All right, we're basically there. Pop it. There's the portal. There's the Grimoire. Here's the Vile Fiend. There's the Ruby. There's the dogs. And you just go hand bolt spam. And we can go demon bolts here because we're lucky enough to have some. I'm going to go into the Tyrant here actually instead and just go hand because I'm pretty sure it's going to close right about now. Yep, there you go. And if you were playing Dreamweaver over Nia, you'd actually Soul Rot now for the haste amp. But there's that super odd sequencing. And look at the damage here, man. Like, it's just so abysmal. Like, it's just... When I was testing with Decon at this point, we're at like 8k plus, man. We're at like 6.3, 6.4. It doesn't really feel like making it 2.5 minutes has really changed anything. All it's done, like from what I can see and everything that I've read, nobody's had this eureka moment where it's like, oh, this is why. It's basically just like you play Wilfred's to sync your Tyrant with the portal if you want for the extensions. Or you just have this really awkward cooldown that doesn't really do much because you're not playing Wilfred's and you're just having it's really awkward. Like, and here's our demon fire damage. It's actually 3.8% compared to 5 from my trinket, which is going to be a lot lower because we're playing, you know, portal over decon, which you can see the damage breakdown here. There's 33 mobs, 35 mobs. There's a crazy amount of damage or mobs here, right? So, it doesn't really make much sense to me. Like I'm trying to figure out what would make them change the cooldown from 3 to 2.5. Maybe it's like, the good thing is they know that. I guess it's sort of like them saying, hey, there's a problem with portal, we can see that, but reducing the cooldown to 2.5 minutes is arguably worse than leaving it at 3, because now like you're playing a jank version of the spec with demonology, with Wilfred's, which is probably like not legendary even want to play with this build in the first place, but you're forced to. It's really odd. Going back to the demonology video that I put out for feedback a week and a half ago, there's a lot of things you can do with another portal. I feel like one of the best ways, honestly, is to make the cooldown like maybe 2 minutes. I think 2 minutes or a minute and a half. A minute and a half will probably come with like some kind of reduced duration on portal from like 15 to like 10 seconds, give or take. But have it so like if you're playing Wilfred's with Decon, you've got that large damage profile every minute, right? With your Tyrant, you crank. If you're playing another portal, you play Hand of Ghoul Legendary, you play Dog Legendary, and you have that minute and a half profile instead, but every single Tyrant syncs with portal. You're not going to portal without your Tyrant. It makes no sense. You've got 10 demons out and you don't want to extend them and give them a damage bonus. It makes no sense. Like, so it's sort of like they've just, you know, thrown something at the wall and they're hoping that it sticks, right? I really can't see a reason as to why you'd want to do this. It doesn't make a very good... It doesn't really do anything, right? I think a further reduction of the cooldown would be great. 2 minutes would put you probably somewhere around like decent Wilfred's decon range, but once again, or Wilfred's another portal range, I'm sorry. But once again, you'd probably be holding your portal for like 15-ish seconds either way. I think realistically the best change is just to make it honestly a minute and a half cooldown and give you that, all right, you got your minute profile here or your minute and a half profile here, and you can make the choice. Now, you have to make portal stronger in single target than decon, which is a mess in itself because you have Grimoire and Vile Fiend and stamina scaling and everything else that decon brings with it. But you know, that's not really for me to decide. That's just for them to figure out. So I like the fact that they're acknowledging portal as an issue, obviously, because they're nerfing, or they reduced the cooldown on it. But I really don't think it actually does anything, and it might just actually be worse than leaving it at 3 minutes. So like I'm hoping they build upon this even more over the next PTR cycle or two. Hopefully Demo and Destro or Destro and Af get some changes as well for dead talents. I wouldn't even be surprised if this change was reverted and or they just buff the damage Demon Steel out of it, because honestly I feel like I'd rather have it at a 3 minute cooldown. Just buff the damage of Demon Steel instead, and I'll play Horned Nightmare or Grim Inquisitors with it if it's worthwhile. 2.5 minutes is just not really where you want to be with this thing. And yeah, I can't really see another reason as to why I can't really see a reason in general as to why they make it 2.5 minutes. All right, so now that we've gotten past the Nether portal disaster or whatever that change actually is, the cool thing about 9.15 PTR today is we were actually able to see the Warlock tier 20 reskin, and we weren't really sure where it came from initially. It's really insane. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, this is initial tier 6 from Samuel Plateau that was reskinned for tier 20 in Tomb of Sargeras, Legion Time Walking, Legion Mythic Plus. Now Blizzard hasn't actually clarified if there's going to be a raid coming out in Legion Mythic Plus. People were assuming this would probably be some kind of reward from Tomb of Sargeras, because Legion Mythic Plus, the raid coming out similar to Oldir or Ulduar and whatever other raids, Firelands, for example. This would be some kind of reward from that. But then later on, Wowhead put a post up talking about the return of the Mage Tower being hinted in patch 9.15 data mining, mentioning that they found a handful of strings and or spell IDs referencing the Twisting Nether, the Imp Mother's Den, in certain places God Queen scenario, which is the old demonology scenario, and a few other classes here and there, referencing the old Mage Tower scenarios. Now, we don't know if this transmog, or I guess this reskin, whatever you would call it, is tied to the Mage Tower or not, but quite possibly. I think it's a pretty safe assumption I think it's safe to assume. We're not certain, like I said, but I mean, for the most part, the Mage Tower has been something that the community's wanted back for a while, albeit as awesome as having the skins back that a long time ago. You could earn the AF Destro Demon ones, the bear skins, everything for every spec. I think there'd probably be a decent bit of backlash from the community if they brought those skins back. It goes both ways. In the end, I don't really care either personally. Don't get mad at me. I'm just saying there probably would be a lot of backlash because those skins were deemed as, you know, only obtainable during that period of time. But I have to say, if they're bringing back these awesome tier 20 reskins, the Warrior one's out, Mage is out, I believe Shadow Priest is out too, I'm fine with that. If this is a limited edition, short time only kind of skin, or only active during the actual Legion time walking event, this is really cool. Tier 6 is one of the iconic Warlock sets. The wings, the helm, everything is so incredibly awesome. I'm pumped for it. Thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, as far as the portal changes are concerned, I don't really know. I'm hoping there's more to it, and maybe this is like the first step of buffing or changing, altering Nether portal slightly. I'm hoping, and I sort of think there might be a bit more to what is actually happening behind the scenes. Now, I assume there's gonna be more tuning next week, the week after, hopefully for Demo, maybe a bit of AF, maybe a little bit of Destro. Blizzard did say they're going to address talents that are, you know, sort of underperforming, and well, Warlock, among many other classes and specs, also has some of those issues. So the actual tier 20 reskin is utterly insane, and honestly, the thing I'm most excited about today is actually the demonic gateway item change. It's a pain trying to target multiple gateways in the middle of a fight, and just it's a nuisance. It's a nuisance in general. So I don't think it's really anything that anybody asked for in the first place, but it's actually a really good change and something that I'm happy about. Now, glass half full. Hey, the demonology thing. Well, at least they're acknowledging in a sense that Nether portal probably needs some help. And glass half empty. Well, if this stays the way that it is, it's still going to be the same, if not probably worse than it actually is currently. Well, in 9.1. Let me know what you guys think of these changes below in the comment section. If you have any questions, also feel free to drop them down there, and I'll be sure to get back to you. If you guys like any weak auras, profiles, or add-ons you saw here, they are all indeed available to you guys for free on my Twitch. If you want to swing by, hang out, grab them, ask any questions anytime, feel free to do so. I also want to give a huge shout out to my patrons. Thank you guys a million times for all support. I really, truly do appreciate it. If you're interested in supporting, there should be a link somewhere in the top left or right-hand corner of this video, I believe. With all that being said, thanks a ton, dudes, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.